know the sound is probably going to be messed up as I record this, and let me put this on. Hey guys, I know the sound is probably going to be messed up as I record this. I will get rid of the picture in a second and you won't be able to notice the lag. But I wanted to let you know, make sure today as you're watching the lesson, make sure please that you're taking notes, following along, making sure that if you have questions, you write them down so that I can go over them next class. Okay, so let me get rid of this picture. And you guys will notice that today we're going to be working on solving equations with variables on both sides. Now, you went ahead and you did the other homework, and the substitute is going to collect it. One thing I noticed right before the bell rang in the last class, let me go ahead and insert a page before this one, is there was a question on your homework that was similar to, let's say, 2x minus 3. All of it was divided by a number, and then it was on the other side equal to something. Now, I'm probably going to end up with a crazy answer because I just made this question up. Guys, when I look at this question, the reason I'm doing this is because I didn't have one like this in the notes, and I need to make sure you're okay with it. So, hey, I might would write it down in your notes. I might would open your notebook right now, pause the video, open your notebook, and get ready to jot this down with the last class's notes. Guys, the equal sign creates two sides, but the problem is that on the left-hand side here where the variable is, all of it is grouped together with that large division sign. Whenever you see a question like this, you have to get rid of the denominator. You have to get rid of that divided by 4. So in order to get rid of divided by 4, I'm going to come in and I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. What that's going to do is those 4's on the left-hand side are going to cancel, and it's going to leave just the top. Now, I know how to work with just the top if it's not in a big fraction. On the other side, 7 times 4 is 28, so I'm just going to bring that down. Now, guys, when I look at this, remember, look at the side with the variable. So your eyes are focusing on 2x minus 3. Hold on one second. Okay, sorry about that, guys. So if my eyes are looking at the side with the variable, realize the 2x, this right here is my couple. I have to get rid of the minus 3. I have to drop the tag along. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides. When I do that, negative 3 plus 3 becomes 0, which leaves just your 2x, and 28 plus 3 is 31. Well, now if I keep working this question, I have to now look at it as if it's brand new. Look at the side with the variable. That's a 2x. How do I get rid of multiplying by 2? Well, I'm going to come in and I'm going to divide by 2. Those 2's cancel, and I'm going to get x is equal to. Now, it doesn't matter whether you leave this as a decimal or a fraction, because 31 divided by 2, if you type it in, should give you 15.5 or 15 and 1/2. It could give you that as a mixed number. So that's how you're going to work with the equations if it's in a big fraction. Now, before we jump into today's notes, I want to just talk for a second, okay? Today, you guys are going to be doing equations with variables on both sides. Equations with variables on both sides. Next class, we are going to be reviewing, okay? And I believe we're going to be doing absolute value equations, but we're going to be reviewing and having a lesson, okay? And then the class after that, okay? The class after that, so the next time, no, that's not a very good way to write it, but the next time we meet, we are going to have a test, and it's going to be on lessons 1, 2, and 3. So we've already done lessons 1 and 2. And today is lesson 3. Okay? I am not going to be reteaching today's lesson during next class. Now, I will go over questions, but you need to be watching this recording and making sure that if it doesn't make sense, you pause it, you rewind it, you watch it again. Try to listen to the questions. If you absolutely need to, ask the sub if you can ask a friend for help. Okay? Other than that, there should really be no talking today, and you should be getting focused on watching the lesson, making sure you understand it, and getting that assignment done. Okay, so you have your notebooks out, and if you don't, you're going to get them out right now. So go ahead and get your notebooks out, and you need to label today's notes. Solving equations with variables on both sides. Now, if at any point today I start to go too fast, feel free to pause the recording. Rewind it if you need to. You've got your Chromebooks, your headphones. You're doing this at your pace. So, you've titled your notes, Solving Equations with Variables on Both Sides. And I want you guys to just go ahead and hit pause and copy this down into your notebook. Once you're done copying it, then hit play. Okay, so you've all got it copied. Guys, the steps we're going to go through today is we're going to look at our 2 different sides. We're going to collect like terms on each side. We may have to distribute, okay? So if we have to distribute, we're going to do that up there in step 1, just like it said in yesterday's notes, or last class's notes. Once we combine like terms on each side, then we're going to go through the process of moving all the variables to one side. Once we get all the variables on one side, we're going to combine like terms, and then we're going to solve it just like we did last class. So let's look at some examples. Here is the first one. Now guys, there is a little bit of intelligence with which side to move the variables to. For instance, right here, I've got 2 sides of the problem. On the left, I've got a 5x, and on the right side, I have an 8 plus x. Guys, if I come up here right now and I minus 5x from both sides, because I needed to move the entire 5x, well, 5x minus 5x, those are going to cancel and become 0. Just watch. Just watch. Now, the 8 is going to come down, but now I need to combine these x's. What is a positive 1 minus 5? So it's almost like I'm thinking 1x minus 5x. Well, 1 minus 5 is a negative 4x. So now, guys, at this line, I have a question that looks just like what we dealt with last class. Okay? From here, I'm looking for where's my couple. Isn't that negative 4x my couple? So I need to get rid of the 8. That's my tag along. 0 minus 8 is going to get me negative 8. 8 minus 8 cancels, and negative 4x comes down. Now, my eyes are continuing to go to the side with that variable. If I'm looking at the negative 4x, those are being multiplied, so I divide by negative 4. Same thing on both sides. So negative 4 divided by negative 4 is a 1x. Negative 8 divided by negative 4. Type it in if you need to. That should give you a positive 2. Now, that was kind of lengthy. And I told you at the very beginning, or I started to tell you, that there is some intelligence that comes into play with which side do I move the variables to. Guys, I'm going to rewrite that original question. The original question was 5x equals 8 plus x. Okay, look at it. Did I write the question down the same exact way? Oh, sorry, guys. I wrote it down the same exact way. So now I'm looking at my 2 sides. Trying to get my color to change. Looking at my 2 sides. Guys, I don't want to move the 5x. I don't want to move that 5x to the right-hand side because it's going to leave one side with nothing or with 0. If I can get all of my variables on one side and all my letters on the other side, That's the quickest way to do this. So to get all my variables together, I'm going to come over here to this positive x. I'm going to come over here to the 8 plus x side and think I need to move this x by subtracting it. Well guys, 5x minus 1x, that gets you 4x. On the other side, guys, x minus x cancels and it leaves you just an 8. Well, now this is one of the questions from the very first days of the lesson. Right now I have 4 times x. How do I get the 4 by itself? Guys, I get rid of timesing by 4 by coming in and dividing by 4. That's going to leave me a 1x. 8 divided by 4 is 2. I got the same answer. But I'll tell you, I would much rather work it that second way. It is so much shorter. And if you're anything like me, you definitely like to save time and save steps. So we're going to try to be intelligent with which way we move variables and numbers. I wish I could tell you to do it the same way every time. But guys, we actually have to use our brain. We have to use the intelligence that we all have to know which way to move things. Okay, let's look at number 2. Hey guys, as I switch to number 2, if you guys didn't get that, or if you're confused, you can rewind that part and watch it again. There's no harm in that. Okay, so number 2, copy it down on your paper, says 8a plus 1 equals 3a plus 7. Guys, my very first thing is I need to find where the equal sign is, because that equal sign creates 2 sides of the problem. Now, the next goal is to get all of my variables on one side and all of my numbers on the other side. Please, I beg, be very careful. Only do one step at a time. The people that I see that try to do 2 things at one time, it's almost like there's so much in their brain that they tend to make careless mistakes. So guys, I have numbers and letters on both sides. Which side should I move all my variables to? I like to have my variables here on the left-hand side. I would much rather get my variables over on the left. That way my answer says A equals. So if I want them to land on the left, can I move the 3a? Well, to get rid of a 3a, I need the entire 3a to go away. So I need to minus the entire 3a. But whatever I do to that left-hand side, I have to do to the right-hand side. Now, notice I lined it up under my 8a because those are like terms. So if I do the math here, 8a minus 3a. They're like terms, I can combine them. 8 minus 3, that gets me a 5a. I had a plus 1, so I have to bring it down. Equal sign drops straight down. Guys, what's 3a minus 3a? Well, it's 0. It's gone. So the only thing on the right-hand side is the 7. So just take a second to look. Once you move the variables all to one side, I now have a question that should look like what we're used to seeing. Okay? If I look at this on the left-hand side, the 5a is my dating couple. I have to get rid of that plus 1. So I'm going to minus 1. That gives me 5a is equal to 6. Well, now I've got to get the a by itself. So to solve it for a plain old a, that's 5 times a. To get rid of timesing by 5, I'm going to come in and I'm going to divide by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1a, better known as a. And then now I have 6 divided by 5. Now, you guys can use your calculator. I would highly recommend it because it will save you from making those careless mistakes. And 6 divided by 5 is 1.2. Or if anybody wants to put it as 1 1/5, that would be okay as well. So guys, to do that problem, we got all of our variables on one side, and then we worked it just like last class. Okay, let's look at number 3. Now this one's a little more complicated, but if you think you really have it, Then pause the recording and try it on your own. Okay. First thing we should do, look at each side. Can anything be simplified? Guys, on the left-hand side, I see an 8W and a negative 2W. They are on the same side of the equal sign. So I just need to combine like terms. 8W minus 2W, that's the same as 8 minus 2, which is a 6W. Now this plus 4 is just going to come down. And on the other side, I have my W plus 1. Now, you didn't have to combine like terms first, but it will make your life easier. Well, now I've got two sides. I need to get all my variables together. It doesn't matter whether you move the 6W or the 1W. I like to move my variables to the front unless there's a reason to do it differently. Well, guys, to move my variables to the front, I need to come over to this W right here and get rid of him. So to get rid of a positive W, I'm going to minus W. Guys, doesn't W minus W cancel? I mean, it becomes 0, which leaves just a 1 over there on the right-hand side. And then on the left, I have to think, what is 6W minus W? Well, be careful, because that's 6W minus 1W. 6 minus 1 is 5, so it's 5W. And then bring down that plus 4. From here, we're back to our old type questions. From here, the 5W is the couple, so we have to get rid of plus 4. Opposite of adding is subtracting. So the 4s are going to become a 0. And now I have 5W equals, well, what's 1 minus 4? Yeah, I've been doing all the work. You type it in. Yeah, actually pick up your calculator and type it in. It's good to double check to make sure you're getting the same numbers. Sometimes there's mistakes in these recordings. Okay, so hopefully you've typed in 1 minus 4 should be negative 3. Well, guys, I'm not done. I'm not done because the W is not alone. So I have to come down here. That's 5 times W. I'm going to have to come down and divide by 5. And you can either use your calculator to do negative 3 divided by 5, or you could realize that's already a simplified fraction. But you could get either negative 0.6 or negative 3/5. You can get either one. Okay. I hope that it's clicking. I hope that it's making sense. If it's not making sense, you can always Google Khan Academy and look up their equations with variables on both sides. You're going to get some good information, guys. Okay, so here's number 4. I think you guys can do it. So pause the recording, take your time, and try it. And then come back and hit play. Okay, so y'all have it done. You have an answer. If you got stuck, you struggled a little bit and you worked through it. I hope. Guys, the very first thing you should have done is taken this 3 and distribute it. 3 times 4x is 12x. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. And the rest of the problem comes down. The next thing you should do, look at each side. Guys, when I look here at 12x minus 6, there is nothing I can do. I cannot put them together. They're not like terms. When I look at my other side at the 5, nothing to simplify. So now I need to get all my variables on one side. So I typically move them over to the left, to the front side. Guys, if I minus 5x, there's nothing going to be left on the right-hand side. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to move it that way. I'm going to move the 12x. So it was a positive 12x. Now I need to minus 12x. Those are going to cancel. 12 minus 12 becomes 0. Negative 6 comes down. Well, 5x minus 12x. Well, 5 minus 12 is negative 7, but it's going to be a negative 7x. Well, guys, my eyes go to the side with the variable. So right now, I'm looking at the negative 7x, thinking, how can I get the x by itself? You're absolutely right. You're going to divide by negative 7. And when you type negative 6 divided by negative 7 in, when I type negative 6 divided by negative 7, first I realize that it's positive. Second, I realize that is a crazy long decimal. So I'm going to hit my math button and say change it into a fraction, which is option 1. And it's going to give me 6 over 7. Well, some of you knew that it was 6/7, but just in case, it's always good to show you those calculator steps because you may not always know it. Okay, take a second, make sure you're understanding everything. Okay, things are going to start to get a little weird. Because sometimes life isn't perfect. Sometimes x isn't going to just have a nice, simple answer. Let's look at our next question and see what happens. And I want us to look at it together. I don't want you to work ahead. I want you to work with me. Guys, the equal sign creates two sides. Think to yourself, what do you do first? Yeah, you got to get rid of those parentheses, so we have to distribute. 2 times 5, that's 2 times 5x is 10x. 2 times 1, that's going to get you a 2. Now the 7x in front has to come down, and guys, the 10x was positive, so I'm going to put in a plus sign. And I'm bringing the other side down. Now, I distributed. Is there anything I can combine? Well, yeah, if I look here on my left-hand side, 7x plus 10x, I can put them together. 7 plus 10 is 17x. Bring down the plus 2 is equal to 17x. Now, some of you that are like my big scale thinkers are looking at this problem and going, something weird's going to happen. Guys, I have to get all my variables on one side, right? So from this line, if I want to move this 17x, right now it's a positive. Don't I have to subtract it to get rid of it? So I'm going to minus 17x. But whatever I do to one side of the equal sign, I have to do to the other side of the equal sign. So 17x minus 17x, hey, that's 0. So I get a 2 equals. Okay, well on the other side I have 17x minus 17x. That's just gone, so what do I write down? Well guys, a second ago we said 17 minus 17 is 0. So we have to put a 0 down. So we get to the bottom and we have no variables. This is weird. Well guys, if you get to the very bottom and you have no variables, we have 2 is equal to 0. What is x equal to? Guys, that's a bad statement. That's a false statement. 2 does not equal 0. There is no solution. There is nothing that's going to work in this original equation. Now, some of you have learned a symbol for no solution. It's actually a 0 with a dash through it. Both of those mean no solution. It's not going to work. Okay. Now, before I move on, I just want to kind of help those of you go back to the line that I talked about earlier. I said some of you here are going to notice something's weird. Guys, doesn't 17x have to be the same thing on each side? So if I say that this is a blob, and this is the same exact blob, how is it plus 2 going to equal to it with nothing? They're never going to be equal to each other. So that's why it's no solution. It's never going to work no matter what number you put in. Okay, so let's look at the next problem. 4x plus 10 equals 2 times 2x plus 5. Okay? Copy it down. I'm going to take my equal sign and get my two sides. First step. Yeah, you got to distribute. So 2 times 2x is 4x, and 2 times 5, yeah, that's a 10. And I'm going to bring my other side straight down. Do you notice anything weird here? Guys, it says 4x plus 10 equals 4x plus 10. That's like saying 2 is equal to 2. It's kind of like one of those moments when you go, yeah, of course it does. Watch what's going to happen. If I go to move all my variables to one side, let's say I want to get rid of this 4x, so I'm going to minus it. I got to do the same thing on both sides. Guys, 4x minus 4x becomes 0, leaving just a 10. And on the other side, it becomes 0, leaving just a 10. Well, does 10 equal 10? Always and forever. Guys, that's a true statement. 10 is always going to equal to 10. So that's when we say our answer is all real numbers. Your answer is any number in the world. The symbol for that is like 2 lines, and then you turn them into an R. So it's 2 lines, and turn it into an R. That's how you write all real numbers. That's the symbol. Okay, so you've seen the 2 freaky case scenarios. Now, there is one other thing that I want to kind of show you that will help. You don't have to do it. But sometimes there's going to be questions with a lot of fractions and a lot of decimals. And I've got kind of a shortcut for us. So go ahead and get this copied down. It says if an equation has fractions or decimals, you can clear the fractions or decimals. That should be or. You can clear the fractions or decimals by multiplying both sides of the equation by the same number. So copy it down and then hit play. Guys, an equation is a seesaw. As long as I do the same thing to both sides of the equation, I should be good to go. I should be able to work the problem out. So, if I have some weird fractions or decimals, I can multiply to clear them. It's called clearing the fractions, as long as I do it to both sides. Let's look at an example. So here I've got 1/3 p plus 1/6 equals 3/2. So I could work with this as fractions. I can type, I've got a calculator that does all the fractions for me. So guys, I could definitely work with this. But I'm going to take a second and look at all of my denominators. I want to find the least common denominator between a 3, a 6, a 2. The least common denominator there is the 6. So I'm going to take and multiply every single thing in the entire equation by a 6. So I found the least common denominator, and now I'm going to multiply everything by a 6. So guys, I'm going to distribute that 6 to every single piece on both sides of the equal sign. Guys, type it in the calculator. What is 1/3 times 6? So I know some of you aren't going to get it out. Alpha y equals, number 1 over 3 times 6. And I get a 2. So that's going to become 2p plus. Well, now, guys, don't I have to do 6 times 1/6? 6 times 1 over 6. And I get a 1. Well, now I have to keep going and do 6 times 3 over 2. Now, those of you that are good at fractions, you may not have to type these in each time, and honestly, that would be a good thing. But I'm going to kind of cater to the people who really hate fractions and show them that they can do this in the calculator. So that's going to get you a 9. guys, those two equations are the exact same thing. 1/3 p plus 1/6 equals 3/2 is equal to 2p plus 1 equals 9. It's an equivalent equation because I did the same things to both sides. Well, guys, from here, I'm going to get rid of my tag along. This should become a natural to you now. After I get rid of my tag along, I've got to get the variable by itself. And I have my answer. Yeah, that easy. If you clear the fractions. So guys, we're just going to talk real quick about what to multiply each of these pieces by. We'll get into more about clearing the fractions when I'm back. But like, here's this equation. If you look at the denominators, so I'm looking at my bottom numbers, 16, 8, and 4. What is the least common denominator? Well, guys, the least common denominator has to at least be the biggest number. So 16. Well, yeah, 8 times 2 is 16 and 4 times 4 is 16. So I'm going to take this equation and multiply everything by this 16. Now, I'm going to do this kind of quick and not use the calculator, but you guys can always pause the recording. 16 times 5/16 y is going to be a 5y. 16 times 3/8 is going to get you a 2y. Keep going on the other side. I have to do 16 times 2. So yeah, even if it's not a fraction, I still have to multiply it. 16 times 2 is 32. And 16 times 1/4 y. Well, 16 times 1/4 is 4y. So once all my fractions are gone, this actually becomes a much easier problem to deal with. I'm going to combine like terms. I don't even know what I'm trying to write there. That's supposed to be a y. Combine like terms. Get all of your y's on one side. So now I have 3y equals 32. And now, guys, I have to solve it for y. So I'm going to come in and divide each side by 3. And y is going to equal to 10 and 2/3. Okay, you guys should be able to know how to do the calculator. So I don't want to take the time. We could always go over it next class. But the whole idea is, do you understand why we can, or how to get the 16 to multiply by? So, next question. Oh, it's decimals. How would you get rid of decimals? Okay, so guys, this is 0.45. Isn't that 45 hundredths? 0.2 is tenths. So guys, if I want 2 decimal places to go away, that's my biggest thing, I'm going to multiply every single number by 100. Because 100 times 26.45 is actually going to be 2645. 100 by 4.2x, I'm going to move the decimal 2 times, it's going to be 420x. And 100 times 1.25 is going to be 125. And from there, we should be able to work the question. So that's the whole idea about clearing the fractions and decimals. Guys, you do not need to clear fractions and decimals. It's a good idea. It'll make your question easier. But it's not going to change your answer if you work with the original fractions and decimals. So we're going to skip this one. We can, no, we're not. Copy it down. Yeah, copy it down. I know I said I was going to skip it. Ignore me. Copy it down. Guys, this question looks like a beast. I need to prove to you that when they look like a beast, looks can be deceiving. Okay? The equal sign creates 2 sides. Don't I have to distribute? Now, some of you might be saying, wait, but Ms. Shop, I want to clear the fractions. Guys, wait to clear the fractions until after the parentheses are gone. Did you hear that? Wait to clear the fractions until after the parentheses are gone. In other words, distribute first. You'll see why. Guys, 1/3 times 6. If you type that in the calculator, 1/3 times 6, 6x, it's going to give you a 2x. Well, what's 1/3 times 24? Type it in. 1/3 times 24. Yeah, it should give you an 8. So we're going to bring down plus 8. Now we're at the end of the parentheses, so I'm just going to bring down minus 20. So all I did was distribute that fraction, and they all went away. The fractions kind of cleared on their own. Now on the other side, I have to distribute negative 1/4. Well, negative 1/4 times 12x, yeah, type it in. I'm hoping you guys are going to get a negative 3, and you know it's a negative 3x. Now, negative 1/4 times negative 72. I know it's positive, but I actually don't know this one. So I'm pulling up my calculator. I need to do negative 1/4, and it didn't get my negative sign. Negative 1/4 times negative 72. Okay, it's 18. So we're going to come in right in 18. Guys, the original question looks crazy. But look at that second line. Is it that bad? Well, it still looks kind of tough, but I think I know what to do. On each side, I can combine like terms. So here on the left, I've got regular numbers that can be put together. That's an 8 minus 20. That should get you a negative 12. Bring down your 2x. Nothing can be combined over here on the right-hand side. So from here, now I've got to get all my variables on one side. So if I look at my right-hand side, I need to get rid of minus 3x by adding 3x. Well, 2x plus 3x is 5x. Bring down that minus 12. Hey, negative 3x plus 3x becomes 0, and I'm going to bring down the 18. Well, next, don't I have to get rid of my tag-along? Because 5x is my couple, and my minus 12 is that tag-along, third wheel. So I'm going to add that 12. So my 5x comes down, and 18 plus 12 is 30. Now they're being multiplied. How do you get rid of multiplication? Yeah, we're going to come in and we're going to divide both sides by 5. So I get x is equal to 6. And I'm done. Okay. Now, we could plug it back up in the very top and make sure it works. We can do that with any equation. Remind me to show you that next class. I should have showed you that already. But guys, do not be overwhelmed by a difficult problem. Because usually, in 1 or 2 steps, they are 10 times easier. So, this quiz is next class. That's wrong. Quiz is in 2 classes. Next class, we're going to be doing a new lesson and reviewing. And then the following class is going to be a quiz. So, your assignment is actually on Schoology. Okay? Let me go ahead and write it down. I'm hoping you guys know how to get into the textbook on Schoology. Your assignment is going to be page 100, 11 to 21 odd. So yeah, just the odd. So you're going to do like 11 and then 13, 15, 11 to 21 odd, and then 25 to 29 odd. Now, you should have enough time to get a good bit of this done in class. If you hate the online textbook, look at the bookshelf in the very back of the room. On the bottom left-hand side of that bookshelf is a bunch of Algebra 1 books. So you can go back and grab a book and flip to page 100 if you want to do that. Or you can use Schoology. Totally up to you. Okay. Good luck, guys. I will see you next class. And again, I apologize, but I'm having a lovely Algebra 1 meeting down in the Media Center. At least I hope it's lovely. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.